Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining me. Today we're going to talk a little bit about tea and how to kind of cheat with the summer weather going on, which is one of my favorite things to do. And I'm glad to have you here in my kitchen. As always, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but it's raining outside and that's my favorite time. I'm the opposite of the rest of the world. If it gets too sunny, it makes me feel like I have to be happy. Whereas if it's raining, I feel all relaxed and happy and all of that. So please tell me hello in the comments and let me know you're here. Also, if you have any questions about Instant Pots in general while we're going along, happy to answer those questions. Just put them in the comments. And I guess with that, I will talk a little bit about what we're going to do. So last time I talked to you when I made the lemon thyme water, I talked about making iced tea in your Instant Pot the same way. And I'm super picky about my iced tea. Like, it's a 50-50 chance if I get iced tea out if I'll drink it or not. So being from the South kind of makes you that way, I think. You want it clear and beautiful and have this wonderful taste to it. And a lot of times it seems like it's left over from yesterday or it has a murky taste to it. So when I decided I was going to do iced tea and put it on for 5 minutes in pressure, it changed the taste enough for me that I wasn't super happy with it. It's fine for me in chai because there's all those other spices happening. You know, so there's cinnamon and cardamom and ginger and all of those things. Hi, Carrie Ann. Thanks so much for joining us from Plymouth, Massachusetts. I like to see people from all over. And you guys tell me if you're picky about your tea the way I'm picky. So in the South, we drink sweet tea. So we're not going to talk a lot about that, but you can make sweet tea using this method as well, which means you'd add a lot of sugar or agave nectar, maple syrup, whatever sweetener makes you happy. I find that if the tea is really good, really fresh, I don't need any sweetener at all. So if you're trying to wean yourself off of kind of a syrupy, sugary tea, this is also a good way to kind of make it. So we're going to use, and this seems kind of silly to me, but I swear to you, it makes me happy. We're going to use the Instant Pot almost like a water heater, basic for all intents and purposes. So in the winter, I don't mind putting on the kettle on top of the stove and turning it on and making tea that way. Well, when it's hot, I don't want to do that because I break out into a sweat just being in front of the stove. And so I tend in the summer to not use my stove or oven at all if possible. So I would rather use an air fryer, I'd rather use an Instant Pot, and that even though there is some heat involved, it keeps everything really contained so you don't get that sort of ruining of the air conditioning. And it depends on where you live and how hot it is, but why waste that money, right? Because it's expensive to keep your house cool. So we're going to do something a little bit different, like I said. So right now, oh, thanks, Dawn. Yeah, tea in the Instant Pot it's kind of awesome. And I know that Dawn lives in Houston where it's been just a bazillion degrees. And so there's no way you're going to want to make some of this stuff. Now, and here's the other thing. Maybe you don't like black tea. Like, I know Dawn isn't a super fan of black tea. So I have some other teas, like, what about green tea, right? So this is a wild blueberry green tea. It's a loose tea. And I'll show you, come on, here we'll switch. And I'll show you a little bit of what that looks like. And so it's got different green tea leaves, but it also has a bunch of other stuff in there too that makes it taste really good. And then there's even herbal teas, and I think I have at least one herbal. Yeah, that's a ginger citron mint. Oh, Dawn does like black tea now with lemonade. It took years for that to happen. Dawn and I are very old friends. So let me show you this herbal blend. And you don't have to use a loose tea, but I'm wanting to show you that you can use a loose tea. I've been making a lot of my tea with Earl Grey. And this is a loose leaf tea as well. It's my favorite Earl Grey. And what I like about it is it just has this heady, floral citrus smell to it that really just kind of amps it up for me. So some of the things we've talked about, like, so black tea has a lot of caffeine in it. Green tea has less caffeine in it. Herbal tea has no caffeine. There's also rooibos, which is a red tea. It's an herbal tea as well that you can use. So all of those are good. And with that too, these are kind of the traditional Southern, let's make lots of iced tea for, you know, iced tea. So these are bigger bags, and as you saw, you can get it in decaf or regular. So if you're trying to not have any caffeine, you can still have some tea. There will be a tiny amount of caffeine in a decaffeinated tea. So if you can have absolutely zero, you should only drink herbal teas or rooibos. And that would kind of give you, it'll give you all the icy, yummy flavor, because sometimes drinking water is delicious, and then sometimes it's kind of boring. It all depends on my mood. So this really helps. So one of the things that I'm waiting for while we're talking about tea a lot, other than I want you to make your choices, like if you look on the back of this, it tells you all the different teas. So like white tea, black tea, I usually steep for 4 to 5 minutes, right? And that's good. It's not too bitter. With green tea, it's much, much shorter. It's 1 to 2 minutes. So if we did green tea in the Instant Pot, like I showed you before, where we put everything in, bring it up to temp, and then take it down at 5 minutes of cooking time, then that's just too much. And green tea over steeped is gross. To me, it's got this nasty, bitter taste, and it's really unpleasant. So that's what we're doing now. I'm waiting for the Instant Pot to come up to pressure, which it shouldn't be too much longer, because I hear it trying. So what I'm doing to kind of make a shortcut is I'm actually doing 0 minutes. So in cooking it for 0 minutes, it means I'm waiting for that water to come up to pressure, right? So as it comes up to pressure, it's going to be a really good temperature to steep my tea. And if that's going to be for 2 minutes or 5 minutes, or sometimes for herbal teas, if I really want to get that flavor in and there's not a lot of hibiscus, I'll even steep it for 10 minutes just to get that really strong, yummy flavor going. I find that hibiscus kind of makes things a little bit bitter. So you guys out there, I know there's a few of you, tell me what your favorite tea is, even if it's just plain old black tea, or do you like white tea or green tea or herbal tea? Because I'd like to know what your favorite is. We're so close. We're so close. And then also, the reason I didn't just heat the water before I came on and show you steeping is that I'm pretty sure you'll get the idea of steeping. What I want you to see too is that it's a little more tricky to do a manual pressure release when it's all water, because it's going to spew out more, or it's going to have that tendency. So when you're doing something like a soup or like this water that we're doing, what you're going to want to do is have like a pot holder or a kitchen towel as you're tapping it. And that tapping is the release valve. You know, it goes sealing to venting. And we're not going to just go to venting, because then water will just start spraying out. Because I have this one, a 3-quart, and it's filled up to the fill line, which I think is about 2/3 of the way full. So what we're making today, I saw somebody else just came in, is easy iced tea without heating up your house. So what we're doing is we're using our Instant Pot to heat up the water. And it's one of those no-brainer things that we always overlook. So you don't have to cook your tea. It's just as fine to get the water hot. It's so close. We're going to get the water hot. And in doing this, like standing in front of this small 3-quart closed thing heating up, it doesn't take the temperature up in the house the same way as if I was standing over the stove. And that's why we're really doing this. Awesome. So the pressure just came up. And I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. So I'm just going to cancel it, even though I could have waited. So there are a couple of things. So see how, if this way you can see it a little bit better. And halfway it's doing pretty good. Actually, maybe on 0 minutes you don't have to be as careful. If you had this really going for a while, water would start spraying up, and it's just not right now. So I think we're doing okay. Hi, Shelly. What's happening is I am releasing the pressure on the water that I'm going to use to make iced tea. So what I did is I put some water in here, and I heated it up for 0 minutes. So 0 minutes doesn't mean nothing's going to happen. 0 minutes means it's going to, because you can tell this is steam, right? So it's kind of warm in here. I expected it to be a little more difficult, but because if I had cooked this for 5 minutes or 10, if I was doing chai, I would want to be really careful about just doing this, just little by little. And so if you're doing something and you feel safe, you can do this. And if you started to see water start to spray out a little bit, you can turn it back again. With the 0 minutes, it's not coming out as much. Shelly, does that help? So what we're going to do, we're using this to make tea without heating up our stove or our oven. And it's just going to take a while for that pressure to come down. And once it does, we're going to put in some green tea. And I'm going to show you one way that you can make it with loose leaf tea and strain it, since I'm pretty sure, you know, if you throw some of these guys in, what I do is I'd probably use 3 or 4 of these for this amount of water, because what I like to do is make it double strength. And double strength means a couple of different things. One, it either means you can put it in as is in the fridge and use it like concentrate. So that way you'd have twice as much tea than what you're storing. And that's always better for me because we have a full fridge all the time. And the other thing I like making, a lot of times if I use the stove and I make it in the teapot, I will make the first one double strength if I know I'm going to use it for iced tea, so I can pour it immediately over ice, which then puts it about to the right concentrate. So Shelly, let me know if you have some other questions about that. We're almost down. It only seems like it takes a long time to take the pressure down when I'm on a video. So, and it probably will take, depending on the heat of the day, it could take as little as 5 minutes to get that up to pressure. And right now it's actually 71 degrees here. It's going to go back up to 96 tomorrow. So it took a little bit longer to come up to pressure than it normally does in the summer. And all we're doing is waiting for that. What do you guys think? Should I make the wild blueberry organic green tea, or should I make some pistachio lime mate tea? Anybody have any choices? Oh, the pistachio smells really good. I think this pistachio lime mate would be really good with soy milk or non-dairy milk of your choice. So I think I'm going to do wild blueberry, and it's come down, right? So I'm going to open up the lid, and it's just water. You see that's hot water, right? Oh, you really can see it because it's steaming up the lens. Okay, that's better. So I'm going to put a couple of teaspoons or tablespoons of this wild blueberry loose tea in here, and I'm going to let it steep. And I'm only going to let it steep for like a minute. Probably a minute and a half, since I'm not really going to look till now. So it's 1:15. We're going to let this... Hi, Jenny. Thank you for coming in and enjoying some tea with us. We're making wild blueberry green tea. So what we're talking about is just that it may seem kind of silly, but it saves a lot of heat in your house to just go ahead and heat up your water inside of your Instant Pot instead of putting it on the stove. because every time we do something on the stove at 5 or 6 o'clock when it's like 100 degrees, I get cranky. I don't know about any of you. I suspect Jenny might get cranky. Dawn might get cranky, but I know them. So if any of you guys get cranky because of the extra heat, let me know, because I will commiserate with you. And so what I'm going to do is, if I had this in tea bags, I wouldn't do it this way. I would just fish out the tea bags, maybe with some tongs or 2 wooden spoons, and squeeze all the tea goodness out of them. This, since we're using loose tea, I'm just going to pour it through a strainer into this. And then from this, I will put it into the pitcher. Jenny says I suspect correctly. Jenny and I have a little bit of the same temperament sometimes. People think we're all goodness and light, but we get cranky just like everybody else. Dawn, you are not always. Dawn says she's always cranky, and she's not. And if you want to see, it's very interesting too. So the tea's kind of sinking, and I think we've had about a minute on there. So what I'm going to do, now this is going to be hot, so you've got to be careful. So I would encourage you to pour away from yourself. I'm going to use these 2 little guys because these are great on this. You could use regular pot holders. I have this so I can kind of sit it down. And I'm just going to strain it through the strainer. Now you want to carefully pour it because it can splash on you. And it may or may not have splashed on me a little bit. And see, some of this tea is so fascinating to me because it looks like all dry. Now, doesn't that almost look like you've made some sort of kale or something? But that's just the green tea. So what we want to do, I'm going to leave that because that'll be easier for me to scrape out. I'm going to move this. And there's our tea. And you can smell the blueberry in there. It's very light. So it's not going to be, like sugary, sweet blueberry flavor. It's going to be a mild green tea with just a hint of blueberries. And one thing that I have blueberries in the fridge, so I may go ahead and actually muddle some blueberries and mint in my glass. So, and do that. So muddle just means mash it. So if you have a muddler, good for you. If you don't, the ends of a wooden spoon. So basically you just take them in a cup and just mush them, right? You could use a masher, like a potato masher or an avocado masher too. And whenever I use herbs like mint or thyme in a tea, I like to bruise them, which just means crush the leaves, the fresh leaves a little bit, and that helps it release the flavor a lot more. So hopefully that makes sense. If you guys have any questions about that, please let me know. Dawn asked, how do I clean my strainer? I use mine for quinoa. I can never get rid of all the bits. They can be hard. One thing, and this one is a pretty fine mesh strainer. So even quinoa isn't going to get caught in there. So what I would do is get a really, really fine strainer. And this is what I use for most things. What I'm going to do is turn it over under the sink. I don't want to turn it over my tea. But when I'm cleaning it, I turn it over and I use the sprayer part and I spray and all of that until I see it gone. So spraying it that way, then sometimes they'll get stuck around the edges, then I spray it this way and I just go back and forth like that. And that pretty much gets all of it out. Now, if you have a strainer, especially for quinoa, that has a little bit bigger hole on it, they can get stuck like crazy. In fact, Cheryl used one of my strainers to strain aquarium rocks, which I was not pleased with. She did use the strainer I never use much and probably will never use again. But so all those little aquarium rocks were stuck in my plastic. And actually, I'll show you kind of the size that I'm talking about. This was a larger, she used the larger one and not this one. But this, like little grains can get stuck in there and little rocks and things like that. And when that happens, I will either get like a toothpick, let's see if a toothpick or, yeah, that'll fit kind of. So, and just kind of poke them out. Now granted, if you have one that looks more like this that you have to poke out, That's really no fun at all. So does that help, Dawn? Does anybody else has anybody else made tea in their Instant Pot? I would love to know that, and what kind of tea, and did you like it? And many people just go ahead and put the tea bags in with the water, set it for 4 or 5 minutes on high pressure, and then release the pressure manually, and they make it like that. I find that it's a little darker and the taste is just a little off for me. And again, if you weren't here in the beginning, I talked about how picky I am about iced tea, and that I'll only drink maybe 50% of the iced tea that I ever buy out. And iced tea in a bottle is just wrong. For me, obviously for you guys. Hi, Jackie. Thanks for joining us. If you guys have any other questions, just leave them below and let me know. And also, if there's something you would like me to talk about next week, or a recipe you'd like to see, or just an Instant Pot thing that you would like to see, just let me know and we'll see what we can do. Okay, you guys have a great day, and I will see you in my kitchen next week, okay?